Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. Our current session focuses on the theory of language and of learning behind task-based language teaching. I hope and expect by the end of this session you would have some knowledge and understanding of the theoretical underpinnings and background of TBLT. Well, my dear students, as far as the theory of language that operates behind TBLT is concerned, it believes that language is primarily a means of making meaning. There are multiple models of language that inform task-based instruction. Advocates of task-based instruction draw on structural, functional, and interactional models of language simultaneously. For example, as far as the structural criteria is concerned, structural criteria are employed by Skehan in discussing the criteria for determining the linguistic complexity of the tasks that would be used in a TBLT classroom. Language is simply seen as less to more complex, where there would be a movement from easy to more difficult, from less to more complex in a fairly traditional way, since linguistic complexity is interpretable as constrained by structural syllabus considerations. Other researchers have proposed functional classifications of task types. For example, Berwick uses task goal as one of the distinctions. So, to classify the goal, to classify the types of the tasks or to categorize the tasks, according to Berwick, task goals can be the guiding force. Depending upon the goals that certain tasks would help in achieving, they would be categorized under one category or they would be put under one kind of classification. Lexical units are central in language use and language learning. This is what is believed in TBLT. Vocabulary is here used to include the consideration of lexical items, phrases, sentence stems, prefabricated routines, and collocations, and not only words as significant units of lexical units, analysis, and language pedagogy. Well, my dear students, although much of the language teaching has operated under the assumption that language is essentially structural, with vocabulary items slotting in to fill the structural gaps or the structural patterns, many linguists and psycholinguists have argued that native language speech processing is very frequently lexical in nature. Conversation, according to TBLT, is the central focus of language and the keystone of language acquisition. So majority of the tasks that are used in TBLT, they actually are based or they involve conversation. As far as the theory of learning is concerned, TBLT shares or task-based instruction shares the general assumptions about the nature of language learning underlying communicative language teaching. So there are a lot of similarities in communicative language teaching and TBLT when it comes to the theory of learning. Some additional principles, however, include the following. Tasks provide both input and output processing necessary for language acquisition. So the building block or the building unit in a TBLT lesson is a task which provides the kind of input that is required to learn a linguistic item or a set of linguistic items, and which leads towards the output, that is the learning of a certain lexical item or a certain set of lexical or structural items. Krashen has long insisted that comprehensible input is the one that is necessary and that is sufficient criterion for successful language use. So if the task that is given in a TBLT classroom, according to Krashen, is of the nature that it provides comprehensible input, then the learning of language would automatically take place. On the other hand, others have argued that productive output and not merely input is also critical for adequate second language acquisition, but it is significant. Tasks are believed to foster processes of negotiation of modification, of rephrasing, and of experimentation that are at the heart of the second language learning. So, in the process of performing a task, the learner kind of negotiates the use of language to perform the task, modifies it, rephrases where it is needed or where he or she struggles with it, and experiments with the language, and thus the process of second language learning takes place. As far as the nature of activities are concerned, task, activity and achievement are motivational basically. Tasks are also said to improve learner motivation by providing them a chance to promote their learning. This is because they require learners to use authentic language, also have well-defined dimensions and closure, and the tasks are varied in their format and their operation. And fourthly, typically they include physical activity that is involved in the performance of those tasks. Also, these tasks involve partnership and collaboration of the learners in the classroom. They may call on the learners' past experiences to be utilized as well. The learners are expected to tolerate and to encourage the use of a variety of communication styles in the classroom while performing these tasks. Learning difficulty in TBLT can be negotiated and fine-tuned for particular pedagogical purposes. Generally speaking, there is a movement from the easy to the difficult level of tasks. Generally, from less complex to more complex movement in the selection of tasks is followed. However, the process can be facilitated as it is negotiable. Skehan suggests that in selecting or designing tasks, there is a trade-off between cognitive processing and focus on the form. More difficult, cognitively demanding tasks reduce the amount of attention the learner can give to the formal features of the message, something that is thought to be necessary for the accuracy of the use of language or for the development of grammar. Thus, this is more like keeping a balance between the two, more like negotiating where to settle both. In other words, if the task is too difficult, fluency may be developed at the expense of accuracy. So, Skehan suggests that tasks can be designed along a line or along a line or bar of difficulty so that the learners can work on tasks that enable them to develop both fluency as well as accuracy, that is their awareness of the appropriate use of the language form.